I welcome all Freedom viewers. You're watching Our Time. We're talking about the main events at this hour. Yulia Gorovaya is here in the studio for that. Hello. Russia launched 2 Iskander-M ballistic missiles and nearly 130 drones at Ukraine overnight into Monday. Defense forces neutralized 91 Russian drones in the north, south, and east of the country. Drone and missile strikes were recorded at 17 locations. This was reported by the air forces of the armed forces of Ukraine. The Russian army used Iskanders to strike civilians in Balaclava. That's in Kharkiv region. There are dead and wounded there, including children. Freedom correspondent Natalia Belakudra is working at the site of the strike. Natalia, good afternoon. Please tell us more about this Russian strike and its consequences.
3 people have been killed and 15 injured so far. The Russian occupation army struck the center of Balaclava. We are now at the site of the strike. Behind me are apartment buildings that were damaged. The Russian occupiers struck in the morning when civilians were sleeping. All critical services are currently working at the scene. Rescuers are clearing the rubble. Charitable organizations have also set up their headquarters at the site. Volunteers and medics are working here. I want to say that the strike was very serious. Many apartment buildings were damaged, destroyed. There is a lot of destruction. Right behind me is a large crater. Where remnants of the missiles were found. Right now at the site, as I mentioned earlier, an emergency rescue operation is underway. They are clearing the debris. We will continue to promptly and regularly report on what is happening in Balaclava, bringing you the latest updates. Thank you.
Very much, Natalia. Let me remind you, Freedom correspondent Natalia Belakudra was live with us from Balaclava, Kharkiv region, which was hit once again last night by the Russian army. There are fatalities, there are wounded, including children. And we continue. Late Sunday evening, Russian forces also struck the private sector of the village of Veliki Burluk in the Kharkiv region with drones. A local resident was killed there. Fires broke out in 2 private residential houses in several outbuildings. The firefighters have already put out the fire. In addition, on November 16th at around 10:45 p.m., an energy facility in the city of Izium was damaged as a result of enemy drone strikes. A 14-year-old girl suffered an acute stress reaction. One person was injured as a result of a nighttime Russian attack on the Odesa region. The Russians launched a massive drone strike on the region. Explosions rang out in several cities. According to the regional military administration, energy and port infrastructure were damaged, as well as several civilian vessels. According to preliminary information, 1 person was injured. On Monday night, Russia carried out a drone strike on the Pavlorad district of the Dnipropetrovsk region. A transportation company was damaged there. The Russian army also shelled the Nikopol district with artillery. There were no casualties or injuries. Air defense forces shot down 2 drones over the region. Ukraine and France signed a 10-year strategic agreement. It provides for the delivery of multiple Rafale fighter jets to Kyiv, as well as strengthening Ukraine's air defense. The official signing ceremony took place in Paris, where Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky arrived today on a visit. The new agreements also include the supply of additional air defense systems, SAMP/T, along with missiles and anti-drone systems. Russia as a state and Russian criminals at all levels must be held accountable. This was stated by Ukraine's Deputy Foreign Minister Andriy Sybiha. He reminded that this week the world will mark 80 years since the start of the International Military Tribunal in Nuremberg. Sybiha emphasized that under the Third Reich, about 800,000 out of 80 million Germans were arrested for disobedience in protests against the war. In Putin's Russia, only about 20,000 out of 145 million citizens have been arrested for dissent and anti-war positions.
Russians either have their brains more thoroughly washed than Germans in the Third Reich, or they are more cowardly, or they support aggression more, or it's all of the above. This is a complete moral catastrophe. A nation in Eastern Europe is full of aggression, hatred toward other peoples, and a readiness to commit the most horrific crimes. We have a number of tools at our disposal, national jurisdictions, the ICC for prosecuting those guilty of atrocities, and a special tribunal for the crime of aggression against Ukraine, which will deal with Russia's political and military leadership, as well as all measures that will make ordinary Russians feel the consequences of their choices. Andrea Sabiha, Minister of Foreign Affairs of Ukraine, on Telegram.
Donald Tusk confirmed sabotage on the Warsaw-Lublin railway line, which is used to deliver humanitarian aid to Ukraine. At the time of the incident, there were 2 passengers and several crew members on the train. The circumstances of the incident are currently being investigated by a railway commission.
This is an unprecedented act of sabotage, directly targeting the security of the Polish state and its citizens. This route is also critically important for delivering humanitarian aid to Ukraine. We will catch those responsible, whoever they may be. Donald Tusk, Prime Minister of Poland, on social network X.
Border crossing points with Belarus have been opened. They had been closed for years, as reported by the head of the Podlaski Voivodeship, Jacek Pisasti. This concerns 2 crossings, in Kuznitsa and in Baberniki. The first had been closed for 4 years, and the second for 2.5. Currently, at the Kuznitska-Bryczki checkpoint, only passenger cars are allowed through, no buses, while at Baberniki, passenger cars, buses, and freight transport are all permitted. Brzozowski emphasized that the period of closure was especially difficult for businesses, as local entrepreneurs lost a fortune because of it. Japan will send a representative from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs to China to de-escalate the conflict surrounding Taiwan. Japanese government representative Minoru Kihara confirmed it the day before a group of Chinese Coast Guard ships passed through the waters of the Senkaku Islands, which are under Tokyo's jurisdiction. Japan called such actions by China unacceptable.
Such actions by Chinese Coast Guard vessels violate international law. We have lodged a strong protest through diplomatic channels in this regard and have firmly demanded that they immediately leave Japan's territorial waters. We will continue to remain vigilant and do everything possible to monitor the situation around the islands, responding to China's actions calmly and resolutely.
Let me remind you that relations between Japan and China have become strained due to statements made by Japanese Prime Minister Sanae Takaichi. On November 7th, speaking before Parliament, she stated that a potential Chinese attack on Taiwan could threaten Japan's very existence and could theoretically lead to military conflict. Previously, officials avoided such wording so as not to provoke Beijing, which considers Taiwan part of its territory. The US is preparing to add the largest Venezuelan cartel to the list of foreign terrorist organizations. This was announced by US Secretary of State Marco Rubio. According to him, the Sun Cartel is personally headed by Nicolas Maduro, and the group is run by high-ranking officials from his own administration.
The U.S. State Department intends to add the Sun Cartel to the list of foreign terrorist organizations. Led by the illegitimate Nicolas Maduro, this group has corrupted Venezuela's state institutions and is responsible for terrorist violence as well as drug trafficking to the United States and Europe. Marco Rubio, U.S. Secretary of State, on social network X.
Amid escalating tensions between the US and Venezuela, the world's largest American aircraft carrier, the Gerald R. Ford, has arrived in the Caribbean. The strike group passed through the Angada Strait near the British Virgin Islands. In addition to the aircraft carrier, it includes fighter squadrons as well as missile destroyers. The commander of the group, Rear Admiral Paul Lonzali Lotto, stated that their mission is to reinforce the existing US naval forces to protect against narco-terrorism in the Western Hemisphere. Meanwhile, Venezuelan leader Nicolas Maduro has called on the US to de-escalate. This was done informally. Speaking at a political rally in Caracas, he sang a line from John Lennon's song Imagine and then made a peace sign gesture. According to the Venezuelan leader, this song is, and I quote, an anthem for all eras and generations, an inspiration for all times, and a gift to humanity.
Subscribe to UATV English and stay updated on the most important events, top news from Ukraine and all over the world, in-depth analysis, exclusive reports and interviews, all on hand in our channel. Join our community of viewers and stay tuned.